Good morning, Switch community. Been a while since I posted a video, so I thought we would go through a quick garden tour. As things happen to change as we go along, you'll notice some differences in what the plan originally was for the garden, but that's okay, right? We adapt and overcome. So let's take a walk in and see what's going on in the beginning here. All right, so we have our garlic and onion bed coming along really well. This portion is garlic. Over there are Egyptian walking onions, and everything's doing really well so far. In between the garlic and onions, I have a row of pink celery. They're just kind of placed along the edge here and then in between the two sections. I started running out of room and things were overgrown in my basement, so we just started plugging stuff away. This space right here has been devoted to cucumbers. We just planted those a few days ago, so fortunately the rain was in abundance yesterday, and hopefully they'll be sprouting here soon. All right, next we have some candy cane peppers right there. We have some candy cane peppers there, some basil here, and this is a pineapple. The tomatoes here are Azoycha tomatoes. They are a Russian variety of tomato. If we go behind them, we have some Japanese. Let's see if we can see them here. These three plants here are Japanese purple trifle, I think is how they're pronounced. I'm not sure. And we have borage. I've tried to intercrop flowers and herbs throughout the garden to prevent bugs. Pest infestation. We have our strawberry patch looking good. I'm actually going to be able to pick some strawberries here soon. If you notice the red painted rocks, that's an attempt for me to keep out the birds, but we do have a good strawberry harvest coming. I picked about 5 the other day too, so we're doing pretty well on strawberries this year. We've actually got the opportunity to eat some. These are the 2 new potted blueberries. Here we have another potted blueberry, and the one so here's this one, the emerald blueberry, and it is actually full of blueberries already. It flowered early and full of blueberries, so looking forward to picking those. We have some herbs and flowers through here. So what we have here is cilantro and nasturtium planted. Our cabbage looking good, flowering, going to seed. Be able to grab some seeds from that here in a little while. This bed here is planted with some cucumbers and carrots. We just planted those again, so we're not really seeing much just yet. Looks like we have some wild strawberries tucked in here, but I also planted some nasturtium through this little area as well. This bed was specifically going to be the vintage wine tomato bed. However, if you can see, we have some volunteer crops popping up. So we're considering leaving some of them in there. We've already picked out about a dozen of them. Maybe we'll let one or two go, we're not sure. But we do still have 3 vintage wine tomato plants, the 2 right here. Then there's one over here. We also have some borage in the corner there, volunteer sunflower, and then our Carolina Reaper peppers. We have 3 right there and 1 over here. And then we have our cilantro in the corner. Cilantro. Our potato bed's coming along nicely. So pretty happy about that. Ready for potato harvests. This bed next to the potatoes. Again, a mix of a few things. Almost all of the tomatoes in this bed are pink Brandywine. And then we have some spicy globe basil down here. Planted a pepper in the middle. Geneva basil. And then over this way we have a couple Roma plants and some more basil. Alright, so this was our first bed that we actually planted, and they were chive onions. We have tried for a couple years now to get all of the onions out, but we fail every year. So we just decided to let it go, and they are actually going to go to flower. If you can see the flower heads there, they're absolutely gorgeous. Big ball flowers. The bees love them, so we've just resolved to leave them. We also have a cinnamon basil over here. I planted leeks along the side there, but they have not sprouted yet. I actually planted them in the fall. They got dug up. So I replanted. We'll see how that goes. Not overly hopeful since they haven't sprouted yet, outside of one little leek here. It's not looking stellar. More cilantro. Here we have some peppers. Again, just transplanting, trying to get them in. So the goal was to have a whole pepper bed, but we were waiting for the beets to finish their cycle, and with all the heat that has gone on recently, it's stunted their growth, so they're a little behind, and we had to get the peppers planted before they died. So as if you can see, we have peppers along the line here. This is the radish bed. I've actually harvested quite a bit of radish so far, so pretty happy with that.
I like your dress.
So we do have a couple radishes going to seed, which is fine. We'll leave those. We'll collect seeds. We'll have radish seeds for next year. So a couple of them are purple seeds, and then some white seeds over here. Also put ghost peppers in this bed. So essentially what we've done is spread out our very hot peppers into different beds, which is probably good to prevent, cross-pollination and changing seeds next year. I would like to try to be as true to form as possible when it comes to seed harvesting, without doing a lot of extra work, like putting bags around the flower heads. All right, so if we come along this way, what we can see here is the eggplant bed, which also have intercropped some flowers, some herbs, and some peppers. So we struggle with eggplants every year, these little black bugs that just apparently tend to love the nightshade family. Specifically eggplant. They are on our potatoes too, but they don't seem to do as much damage to the potatoes as they do the eggplant. So I tried to plant a bunch of eggplant this year. I actually seeded quite a bit, but we only have 9 out here, and 2 still left in the house that I need to bring out. So if you can see how some of them are lacy, that's because those black bugs are already on them. I came out and hand squished dozens of them yesterday, but clearly not all. If you can see the speck there, they destroy eggplant. So we've intercropped some cinnamon basil, some oregano that I'm really going to have to keep track of so it doesn't take over. We have borage in several places. I put rosemary in here and some Geneva basil. Also some sage. So what I'm hoping to do here is help prevent bug damage. It looks like I'm probably going to have to do some neem oil. They don't look as covered in bugs today as they have the last few days, but I really want eggplant this year, so I think I'm going to break out the neem oil. This is cilantro going to seed. This tomato bed is one of our favorites. It's purple Cherokee. And so I've actually pulled off some suckers and planted those too, so we'll have a good purple Cherokee harvest here. Alright, so we're back over here by the onion and radish patch. This is sunflowers. Apparently, as we are learning, we are known in town because we grow sunflowers and corn in the city, and our neighbors just seem to love that and actually invite family over and give them a tour along the alley of our garden, so that's super sweet. So we've tried to incorporate different varieties and different placements of eggplants, or well, yeah, eggplant too, but also sunflowers. So we have this section of sunflowers. There's sunflowers along the front here. That middle section is corn, and the back section is okra. And we'll see the duplication on the other side. So my partner's an artist, and it's actually neat having an artist help plan the garden because we have things set up in artistic ways. This is one of 2 sweet potato beds. So as I've said before, I've struggled in the past growing sweet potatoes, but as I showed you, they were rooting very well, got some great slips, so we planted those, and hopefully they will do well. Looks like they're already doing pretty well in here, so that's exciting. More sunflowers. This bed was actually supposed to just be flowers, but not all of them grew, which is fine. There's some Japanese lilies back there, about 3 of them. And so since a lot of the flowers did not come up, I planted a hillbilly tomato here. Just one, but what I'm going to do is pull suckers off of it and plant at least 2 more. So we do have some flowers here. Some flowers, not sunflowers. We do have some flowers here, and that's okay. We planted cucumbers along the edge to trellis up the bed frame. And the middle section of this bed is okra. And on the sides we have carrots. Like I said, we planted carrots in the fall, but none of them came up. Not really sure why, so we just reseeded several spots for carrots. Also, along the edge where the wood is, that's also okra. We just love okra flowers. They're just gorgeous. So we actually planted a whole bunch of okra. And which is great. Okra is drought tolerant, and you can eat the entire plant, and they're just beautiful flowers. Absolutely beautiful. This is the second sweet potato bed, also looking great. So excited about that. Okay, now here's the other side that mimics the one I just showed you. So up front here we have sunflowers all the way up to that little tree that's been here as long as I've been here. Corn in the center section, and then okra along the end. So we tried to stair step it, right? So sunflowers tend to get really big, and we like to grow the really big ones. And then we have corn, and then okra in the back, right? To give it a little pleasant look for folks who drive by so they can see all the tiers, right? They can see the sunflowers, the corn, and then finish it off with beautiful flowers from okra. We actually also planted okra back in that little patch right beyond the sweet potato beds. We did nothing fancy back there. It's absolutely just plain dirt. Gets very little water back there, or at least it retains very little water back there. And to show just how resistant okra is and how drought tolerant okra is, you can see that they are coming up pretty nicely through here, as well as I think a rogue sunflower. So very tolerant crops. We have some flowers planted here. Again, another rogue sunflower. We have rogue sunflowers and squash all over the garden. Some we leave, oh, and tomatoes. Some we leave, some we change. All right, we have 4 beds of beans, green beans mostly. So that's a green bean, green bean. This bed's a mix of beans, and then we have pole beans there at the end. So have not shown you the pea section for a while. They are flowering. This particular variety are blue shelling snow peas. And I think the flowers on them are just gorgeous. So we should be getting some peas from this pretty soon. And some kind of rogue squash of some kind. I think that might be a pumpkin, but peas all the way down, they're doing really well. They actually get a decent amount of shade through this section, which is probably why they're still doing well. I don't know. Apparently these blue shellings like the sun and the heat, because they are performing like rock stars at the moment. We have some nasturtium here. Just tried to intercrop that in various places. Alright, so after the beans, we have a whole nasturtium section over here, and I see a flower in there, so that'll be the first flower. Nasturtium are actually very neat flowers. The entire plant is edible, from the flowers to the leaves. They make great additions to salads, and the leaves, at least, I have not tried a flower yet, the leaves have a pepper taste. Right, so they give a little spice, which is good. Everything in that section, squash oriented, all volunteers. We planted none of that. This is chamomile that has been planted for quite a while, and it's gorgeous. It's massive, looking beautiful. Now the other chamomile plants that I planted, I've planted 2 more. They have already started to flower and go to seed, but this one has not. So I'm excited to see what that one looks like when it gets going. A couple, I planted that. That's a Kokosi melon, and there are Kokosi melons over here as well. The rest of the stuff in that bed, including those, squash, pumpkin, melon, whatever they are, and those tomatoes, all volunteers. Again, we're just kind of seeing how nature works and what we're getting. We'll probably thin things out later or just have a jungle like we usually do, because apparently we enjoy the chaos. Curled parsley, there's the other chamomile. That one's just now starting to flower. This chamomile over here has been flowering for over a month. More melons, more nasturtium. Here we have some crimson watermelon. I just planted that yesterday. I did plant loofah in here. I'm not sure what's happening with them. Usually they would have sprouted by now, but that's okay. We'll just see what happens. I have a couple in the house in pots too, so if these do not grow, I just transplant. And that looks like we have a rogue potato. All right, this bed has some cosmos in it. They don't look very happy today. The little ones over there do, but also if you can see the spinach, chard, and some of the lettuce look like they're going to seed. The dill's still doing really well. We're waiting for the Brussels sprouts. All right, so those are Brussels sprouts going to seed. And then we also have kale going to seed. So we're really excited to collect those seeds and plant some more of those in the spring or fall, maybe even the fall. Here again we have lots of chard, different varieties going to seed. This is still the ginger patch. It doesn't usually come up until it's really warm, which surprises me why it hasn't popped up yet, only because it has been very warm. Alright, so part of the loofah bed. Here we have tucked away another cilantro plant. It's getting ready to flower, so it's kind of bolting, but it has been very hot. Alright, so this is just the other side of basically the rogue area. But what we're going to try to do, I think, since a lot of these popped up, is just to get them to trellis up this stuff. And maybe we can save more plants that way and let some of them just continue to do their life cycle. We're hesitant. We actually had no intentions of planting squash or zucchini or pumpkins this year because of all the issues we had last year with vine borers and squash bugs. But of course, you know, again, nature does what it does. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, you've seen all of this garden before, but this is our beet bed. It's actually looking really good, but it should be a little bit bigger now. Again, I think the heat really bothered it and slowed it down. I think we're supposed to have some cooler weather, so I'm excited to actually get a beet harvest so that we can convert this bed into a pepper bed, which was its original intention. And if you see here, onions, right? So we have onions all over the bed. They're alliums, and a lot of insects do not appreciate things like garlic and onions. So instead of pulling all of it, we've just left a lot of them in hopes to deter the bugs. All right, so this section here, part of the pepper bed, has been planted and transplanted. So we do have seeds in this section. The rest of it are non-spicy, non-hot plants, so regular bell peppers or yellow peppers, wax peppers. These are of the non-spicy variety. So through here, again, some of the seeds that planted, apparently I'm a lot more clumsy and messy than I like to admit, because we have different things growing now that I actually transplanted some of the borage, some of the parsley, cilantro, rutabaga, some other things have been popping up through there, so you know, that's okay, we'll keep it. Again, herbs are supposed to be good for some insects, so hopefully those pleasant surprises will work out in our benefit. Here's the other beet bed, again coming along nicely, ready to get that harvest and put in our summer crop in this section. Okay, so now we are on the other side. We have flowers. These are our cone flowers, echinacea coming up good. We do have one kale plant that is not going to seed yet because it was planted just about a month ago. Thyme. The thyme is really doing well. It loves this spot. So does the curled lettuce in the back. It actually loves that spot too, but there's quite a bit of shade here throughout the day from the trees above. There are more beets because I love beets. And we have some lettuces in charge through here too. And I think these will actually do pretty well, even going into some of the hotter days, just because again, they get a lot of shade from the trees above. As long as we can keep them wet, they should be okay. Right? They haven't bolted yet, so that's a good sign considering how hot it has actually been. But again, they're mostly shaded in this area, so. All right, this bed has been dug up by squirrels quite substantially, which is irritating, but we do have a few things that are still growing. So we have a couple different varieties of tomatoes in here, and we have a cucumber, and then on the other side the mint, which is absolutely flourishing. The 3 different kinds of mints we have in here. This is a rose bush I propagated 2 years ago. It's really enjoying itself right now. And we also have some potted cucumbers, which is good. We've also struggled with cucumbers the last couple years for some reason, so we just planted them in various areas in different ways. Like these 2 are potted. This also has been seeded with cucumbers. Likewise, when I first started, we have this bed seeded with cucumbers, and then as I showed you back where the sweet potatoes were, we also have cucumbers back there. Our goal is to get some cucumbers this year, and eggplants. So we've really seeded things and planted plants in the hopes that we can find a good spot in the garden to grow these things. Because again, those are 2 things we've really struggled with. I haven't really noticed pests on the cucumbers. For some reason, we're just not finding good spots that they enjoy. So we just plant them all over and see what works, right? Experiments, as I've said before. Okay, so other side, yep, weeds growing too. We're good, we're fine with that. This is basil and thyme basket. Thought I'd bring it out for some warmth. I might just take the whole chunk and plant it somewhere. Thyme really likes shade more than basil does, but basil will get bigger, so you might even be able to break it into a couple spots and have the basil shade the thyme. We'll see. Maybe I'll stick that in the eggplant section too and see if that helps get rid of those little black bugs. Here we have zucchini in a grow bag. Never used a grow bag before. They seem to be fairly happy in here. This was actually starting to flower in the basement, so I'm really glad to get it outside. It's looking so much better. I believe there are 3 plants in here, so I'm just really going to have to be mindful to keep it watered. They're heavy feeders, and I'll probably put some fish emulsion in here too, just because I want it to get a good production from them. The thing I'm noticing, for a heavy plant like this, a grow bag probably was not a good idea. So they're clearly going to go over the sides, which when they get heavy, it's going to bend the stalks. And I mean, it could happen in 2 ways. It's either going to break it or cause it to get harder and thicker. We'll see which one that works. A possibility of maybe stacking some bricks or trees around it just to kind of hold the weight up. Lavender looking good, flowering. And again, we're back over here to the onions, celery, and garlic area. We never plant this, actually. Whatever grows here just grows here. So it looks like we have tomatoes, carrots, and onions. Every year something pops up in here, so we just let it do its thing. That's our, well, as you've probably seen, most of the garden is just kind of like, yeah, whatever. We just play around. But this one is literally an experiment tub. Just whatever comes up here comes up. This is, these actually, there are at least 3, maybe 4. These were overwintered in the house. And actually I had it by a window that got a lot of warmth, a lot of sun, and it really did well. At least a couple of the plants really did well. I'm not going to plant this in the garden. I'm going to leave this in the grow bag, only so I can take it back in the grow bag. But this one also had a lot of aphids on it, so I'm not looking to share that soil anywhere. So we're just gonna essentially quarantine this bag, and also why it's over here and not near any other peppers or anything else that those aphids seem to be attracted to, like eggplant, tomatoes. It's kind of over here with the onions and garlic, in the hopes that we're not contaminating anything else. It's not getting as much sun as I would like, but here in about 20 minutes or a half hour, it'll be in full sun for the rest of the day. Okay, Egyptian walking onions again. Most of them are Egyptian walking onions, not all of them. Lavender here, lavender over there. This is a multicolored carrot bed, just planted, so that's why we're not seeing anything. Again, this whole bed was planted in the fall, but they did not come up, and I'm not really sure why, so we just reseeded. Now, this was the purposeful pumpkin place. We were only going to plant pumpkins here. These are giant pumpkins, and we were just going to have this particular bed be pumpkins and kind of train it along the outside of the garden, and then we got all these other rogue things. So hopefully the vine borers and the squash bugs aren't so bad, but at least we're a little bit more prepared for the quote-unquote attack from those 2 bugs, that maybe we can be more vigilant this time around and not wait until it's too late before we catch or notice the situation. Here we have a couple more Egyptian walking onions. Dug this little patch up and planted some irises here. There's one white one and one purple one. I did plant flowers here earlier in the season, but they also did not grow, which is fine. We always keep a dandelion patch because they are the first plants to flower that the bees need. Plus we use them in salads, the leaves in salads, and sometimes I'll fry up the flowers, right, and have fried dandelion. Otherwise, there are just some spring flowers in here, some sedum. I did plant these flowers in there, and I honestly don't remember what they're called. Can't remember. Some more borage, and then we're back around to the Carolina Reaper bed. Alright, so this is what we're looking like so far. I'll give a quick tour. It really was a benefit to get a lot of these plants started early. However, what I noticed is I probably started things way too early, which will be something to keep in mind next year. Definitely probably start the peppers about the same time, but tomatoes definitely not. Because I have a feeling here in a month we might be unmanageable, which is fine. But we got a lot planted this year. Right? The bed's been extended on all sides. And we've added a lot more crops than what we've had in the past. So we'll just see how things go. I do have a feeling, though, we might be overrun here soon. And we will definitely document that for you. Otherwise, thank you all for watching, and I hope you are enjoying this amazing weather, and happy gardening for the day. Thank you, Switch community.